Welcome to the Church Communications Podcast. We want to help you become a church communications expert. We understand it can be a challenging and ever-changing role because we've worked in the church too, which is why we built a community with over 25,000 church leaders that are ready to support and cheer you on. Your hosts for the show are Allred and Jahng, who want to help equip you to reach more of your congregation and community. This is the place where we'll talk shop with fellow practitioners and professionals. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Hi, welcome to Church Communications. I'm Allred. I'm really excited today to be joined with Trey Van Camp. Trey is notoriously known as the YouTube pastor, I feel like. And you've really built a reputation for yourself on the internet, which is good, right? I mean, I've built up a reputation for myself too. Like, I don't know if it precedes me.
You're the Facebook community person.
Yeah. I think, sure. So we're going to get into that. But first, Trey, we're at NRB right now, for people who don't know. That's why we have this cool blue curtain. That's why we're even together, not on the internet.
Right.
Because normally we would not be in person. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what your session was today?
Yeah. So Dan Darling is a good friend of mine. Actually, his church supports my church plant.
Okay.
So that's how we know each other. Well, now he's pretty high up in the NRB world.
Okay.
So he invited me to talk about YouTube.
Cool.
So I positioned it as how to YouTube your journey and journal for King Jesus. So it's this idea, I think King David was the original vlogger because in Psalm 51, you see his journal, his heart of confession, right? That my bones are with it, they're breaking within me because of my sin. I finally confess and I feel better. Well, that's more powerful for us because we know 2 Samuel 12, we understand his sin with Bathsheba and being confronted. So we get to see the journey and the journal. And I think that's what's cool about YouTube. It's not just a place to upload your sermon.
And the journal.
It's not a place just to upload your sermon or your live stream.
Yeah.
But it's a way to incorporate your whole life into it and then talk about biblical lessons in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your church, where you are, what you're doing.
Yeah, so I planted Passion Creek Church 5.5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
We're Southern Baptist Convention, so North American Mission Board.
Were you at SBC last week?
I was not.
What? I was there.
I know.
How did I get there? You weren't.
Your SBC?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. You
Squad.
didn't know that about me?
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of keep it under wraps, right?
Right, yeah.
No, I couldn't go because I had previous commitments with work and stuff, so long story short, I wish I was able to go. I was happy with the results. So anyways, so I've been doing that for 5.5 years, and about 4.5 years ago, I learned about Casey Neistat. You know who Casey Neistat is?
Yeah.
That's when I decided, I've never heard of that before, that's when I decided to incorporate that.
It's really interesting. What Casey Neistat was doing at the time was pretty wild and innovative. Is he still doing that?
Not really. So that's the question.
He fell off the planet.
Yeah, he kind of he's living that family life because he uploaded every day.
Okay, yeah.
For 2.5 years, so he got burnt out.
Okay.
But he made a lot of money because CNN bought him out.
Oh wow!
So he's just living he's randomly in podcasts and episodes that I watch.
Well,
he's like, I have too much money.
This guy's
he made $25 million.
Wow.
From his channel.
Okay.
So that's my plan. No, I'm just kidding.
Except for the church. Okay. Well, I want to know. Okay. So how did you get started vlogging or YouTubing? What's proper way? What's the cool way to say it now?
I know. So I feel like vlogging is a bit old now. It's just YouTubing. Yeah. So what was the question? How long?
Yeah. How did you get started?
How did I get started? Yeah, so I watched the Casey Neistat vlog and thought, wow, I thought YouTube was just for cat videos.
Right.
So I was like, this could be a great place for storytelling. And I really recognized, because, he would show his life, but then he would talk and kind of share his perspectives.
Right.
And I realized he was molding and shaping a whole generation of how they view the world.
It really was.
And it was packaged in a way where you'd receive it. And so pastors were saying, how come my sermons aren't getting watched? Well, it's I'm a sermon guy. I'm all about them.
The way you're titling your sermons is probably the first
step one, right?
First problem, right?
Yeah, but it's not a story, you're not really brought in, and there's no trust built there.
Right.
So I liked how Casey was doing that, not from a Christian perspective. And I thought, is any Christian doing it? And to be honest, I couldn't find anybody doing it.
Right.
So I was like, I'll try. Because I've always, I'm a pastor's kid.
Right.
So I made the website for my dad because nobody else would.
Right.
I made all the videos because nobody else would.
So the original Church Comm kid.
Yes.
That is Trey Van Camp.
That is me.
Okay.
And then I became a pastor, so I was like, wait, I can flip the camera around and still communicate. So
Right.
that's why I decided to morph those two. And my journey has changed a lot. Like
Yeah.
I used to just do
I
just
think it's
vlogging.
really unique too. I don't think any pastor can do what you're doing. I mean, I know that we want to like encourage them.
That's what's so hard. So I just gave the talk.
I know.
And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
how? First of all, I know some of y'all will just never do it because it's too much work.
It's so much work. It's
And
an
then the
incredible
other
amount
half of you
work.
won't do it because you don't get what I'm even saying. You've never
Right,
seen a
and
vlog
I do. It's not, and I don't think it's just those two reasons. I think the third reason is it is a skill and a talent, and
Right.
you do have that. Like, and I want to also bless
Thank
you, and
Yeah.
like you really do have a really unique skill set.
Yeah, thank you.
That's really hard to repeat. But
That's
at the
what's
same
hard.
time, we want to make sure, like, we want to encourage because there are those same people like you, right?
True.
Who are preaching the gospel
They don't have
or
to be
media,
pastors.
even behind the scenes,
Right.
that could be doing this, that have this skill set, right? That could still be doing this to spread the gospel,
Right.
but they don't know, or like maybe they're scared. And like I think that's where you fill in the gap and explain and help them like grow and those kind
Yeah.
of things, which I think you're doing. So I know you've got this Patreon situation
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit about.
I don't know you ever
that,
watched any of
about
my
your
stuff, so I'm
community.
encouraged right now.
Yeah. I got like to get into that stuff.
Were you researching right before we met?
I like saw some tea or something. No. Actually, this was weeks ago. Yeah. I saw some tea on there, and I was like, oh, Trey's got like this thing. And I was like, that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, so I'm doing Patreon now. So I've tried to do like courses, online courses.
Okay.
So being a church planner,
Is it about church planting too, or is it just about the YouTube, or is it a little of both?
it's a little bit of both. But being a church
Okay.
planner, I need to find other ways to make income
Yeah.
to bless my family. So it's
Right.
like, well, what are the things that I've learned that can bless other people and
Right.
making videos and stuff like that. So like
Yeah.
right now I have valuewithvideo.com and it's
Yeah.
got like 33 videos of teaching pastors, like here's everything I've learned, like how to make a Facebook ad,
Yeah.
a YouTube ad, how to, all those
Yeah.
things. But yeah, so I made this Patreon to where it's, if you do $20 a month, you have access to that course now.
Yeah.
But then we meet on Zoom twice a month.
Oh, that's really cool.
And we just talk strategy, we just talk shop. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's what's the latest camera to use, other times
Right.
it's, hey, I try to do this podcast, and or how do you invite guests, or how do you
Right.
write a book,
Yeah.
or all these different things. And so we just kind of just talk shop. There's always at least like 20 or so that hop on,
Yeah.
and it's a huge blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So,
But then there's like the $10 a month. So that's actually, I'm not trying to pitch my Patreon.
No, I
Don't
was
get the
about to
link.
ask, how do you find it?
So I try to do levels of tiers. So I have
Okay, yeah,
silent
yeah.
partners that are just $3.33 a month.
Yeah.
And I don't do anything for you.
Yeah.
$10 a month. It's I call it my ministry partner.
Yeah.
Ministry leaders tier. So let's talk about ministry. So I do twice a month Zooms with those people, saying just even put YouTube aside,
Right.
just sermon series, getting a building, just anything ministry wise. Let's just talk life. And then the $20 a month is the content creator tier.
Right.
So then we talk about editing and
Yeah.
gear. And then $100 a month tier, which I have a few. I'm like, you guys are amazing. What do you want from me? So we just do like a one-on-one consultation call once a month.
Yeah.
So some of them it's like spiritual direction, just like me being pastoral to them. And others it's like, I need you to really
Mm-hmm. Right.
like walk me through editing
Yeah.
this vlog.
Figure
So
out.
it's been a huge blessing to my family. I have 65 patrons right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's cool.
That's really cool. Yeah. Okay, so how do people get involved if they want to find that?
Yeah, you asked me. I don't like saying make sure, but the
But
easy way.
we're here.
I know, I got
like,
you.
know.
TreyVanCamp.com, and there's just
Okay.
a big button that says Patreon. That's the easiest way.
Cool. Yeah. Well. Okay. So first off, you do such a good job of resourcing the church. So I don't think like this is a pitch or anything.
Yeah, I am really trying to help pastors.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's like my honest heart knowing like yours. Like I don't think that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I just have seen that a lot here of like just buy this, buy that. So I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely understand. And we don't want to be those kind of people either.
Right.
At the same time, though,
My
like
family's got to eat.
yeah, and
You know what I'm
the
saying?
worker deserves his wages.
Yeah.
First, Timothy. It's very important.
Pastors get it, right?
Yeah, they do.
Communicators
Well,
get
and like I said, you have this unique skill set and unique view because I think you're ahead. You know, I
Yeah.
think you're like 10 years ahead of where a lot of pastors will want to be.
Do you feel that way often? Like
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
this, where it's like,
Sure.
I feel like what I'm saying is going over your head. 'Cause it's,
Right.
You
And
will
I-
get it one day, but
Well, and I think a lot
Not
of
to be
church
rude.
communicators feel that way.
yeah,
Like-
even to their pastor, right?
Yeah, well, I think and I think COVID accelerated the like where it almost to where it should be,
Yeah.
right? Like it accelerated it so much. So like the church communications director position right now is like in its form of like becoming more professionalized.
Right.
So like
True.
youth ministry, like every church felt like they needed a youth minister in
Right.
2005.
Right.
Is because we're
That was like the first
we're
hire.
millennials, right? Like
Yep.
you're around my age probably, and yeah, I think everybody was like, we've got to get a youth minister. There's all these kids,
Right.
and so they pulled somebody into a full-time position to deal with all these kids. Well,
Right.
I think that's what's happened with social media and all
Yeah.
these channels. And they're like, we gotta hire somebody to deal with all these means of communication.
Right. Yeah.
Because
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, because we can't handle it anymore at this point. And so, actually, maybe you could talk about how do you do that as a church plant? Like, what does that look like for you? And for your church?
So our current model, because we're a small church.
Yeah.
So, like with my storytelling and my videos that I do, it's under my name and it's all housed under just Trey Van Camp.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it certainly blesses the church. Like,
Right.
people come to our church because they found out about my channel.
Yeah.
Like my piano player, who's incredible. Her husband found out about me through a Brady Shearer shout out
Oh, that's so funny.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
And now they're like, we finally moved in the area. We want to go to your church. I'm like, that's so
funny.
cool. And they're
Yeah.
like, the biggest blessing. I love that couple. So stuff like that happens a lot. But I've really kept it separate in the sense that like all the camera gear I have, I bought it.
Right.
That way, like when I do Patreon, I don't feel bad
Sure.
for taking it, you know?
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely a big correlation there with the church.
Yeah. So who produces like your Sunday morning, or like who produces like the graphics and that kind of stuff?
Me.
You're doing all of it.
I'm doing all of it.
You're your comms team.
I am the comms team.
So that's probably relatable for like every single pastor.
Yeah.
That's why I created the group, because I was like, I know there are pastors across America who are doing everything.
So sometimes my church channel lacks.
Yeah.
And the graphic and like,
Right.
it's Memorial Day, let's post something about, because I'm always focused on my content.
Right.
So it is, like, I would love to have somebody else
Right.
to kind of take over our church stuff and repurpose what I make and
Yeah.
put it on the church page. So yeah, it's don't go to our church page. Like, I think we do good with our live streams, and we have a team that does great.
That's great.
But I'm trying to get people that like do sermon clips and all that kind of stuff. Right now it's just me.
It's a process. Yeah. And two, coming up with sermon clips and stuff, it is helpful to get that transcript and stuff afterwards, or if you create your manuscript,
Right.
to get that and pass it off to somebody. But I'm sure when you're doing all of that yourself,
Right.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it just gets overwhelming. And then I have ministry to do.
Yeah, and then you have like, you're going to visit people at the hospital.
What do you think, so for Church Comm Leaders,
Yeah.
what's like the 3 pieces of content they need to be making right now for a church page?
Oh, man. You just turned it back on me. I don't
Yes.
like that. Yeah, I don't like that at all. Okay, so what should people be making? Well, one, they should be figuring out how to do online community. That's my space. I know
Right.
that is
I remember your
space.
talk
And I
at
know
SCC. I
that's
thought that
not
was so
content.
good. Yeah.
Well, that was a wild idea God gave me, like back in 2016, about creating communities that are not a part of the church, which is so funny because it's an old idea. This
Right.
is not like some crazy new idea that I like invented, but like
You're
God
prioritizing connection over conversion. At least a conversion, but you're connecting with them.
Well, but didn't Jesus prioritize connection over conversion?
You're right.
I mean, he wanted the
they're
people,
people.
to come. Yeah, like let the people come to me, even if even the little children, right? Like
Right.
it wasn't like he was expecting those children to be converted and decide
Right.
to follow him. He was like,
And as
I just
Baptists,
want-
we always got to pray that prayer. We got to close the deal.
we gotta plan A, B, and C.
That's right.
Like we gotta get that done. And so which is part I've been that was.
I mean,
that's
praise
what
God for
ingrained
that,
in me.
but- right.
Yeah, and I love evangelism. Like I think that's why I'm like I just want to make evangelism not weird again.
That's why I like vlogging, because it's making that personal connection first.
Yeah. It's just like people might end up on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I want people to maybe end up in my online community.
Cool.
And then we have a relationship. Just like you and me, we've been on the internet, right?
Right.
Like we met maybe one time in person
Right.
beforehand. However, here we are having
And
a
then just
conversation.
boom.
It's fine.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like you can do the same thing, but like with hiking and stuff in your community and
Right.
like other
It's true.
ideas. Like it's not that hard. You can find people in your church who are already passionate about doing these kind of things.
Yeah.
And just tell them
Just empower them.
like maybe give them the resources and tools, right? Because a lot of them will be like, well, I don't have money to do these kind of things. Well, yeah, we can fund it, but let us help you, I don't know.
So 2 more. That's the one
that's
thing.
a big
Church
one.
Comm.
That's the big one for me. Yeah,
You got 2 more?
Yeah.
Probably have 10
for
more.
content. For content specifically, or just like Church Comm in general. For content, okay, so I do think like extending the sermon throughout the week is good.
Okay.
Like cutting the sermon up and putting it in different places, like doing TikTok and Reels and stuff like that, I think is good. But more than that, like create fun, awkward content.
Nice.
That you're not expecting from a church.
Right.
Because, that was what I was telling your church. I went and did a consult with a church a couple months ago, and they were like, look through our TikTok and like give us some ideas. And I was like, your Instagram. I was like, your Instagram is so beautiful. I was like, it is so beautiful, but it looks like a bunch of perfect people go to church here.
Yeah.
And it tells a very different story than when I am here. Like, y'all are very authentic. Like, your people are really nice and welcoming. But what to me this looks like is pretty pictures.
Right.
And you're missing the awkward.
And pastors love the pretty pictures
right.
of other churches.
They
and
do.
It's like, hey, let's do that for but not other people do.
But here's the thing, like, it's so funny because if you break the perfectness, like if you break that, aesthetic that you're going for on Instagram, I guarantee you it will perform better.
Breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, and then like I also think like it's going to make your church is going to be more approachable.
Yeah, my last line for my talk today was personal is more powerful than professional.
Yeah,
like
it is every time.
And that's great because that's like the gear is less expensive.
Yes.
I mean, it's like you can do it in 5 seconds. And
right.
You're good.
Yeah.
Like I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, just be normal. I don't know. That's exactly what I try to tell people in this online community space. Like, just be normal. Like we just want to create normalcy.
Right.
I think we built up church on a shrine. Made it unapproachable in a way, and I want to break whatever that is. And then the third piece, would
do you think that's a generational thing? Do you think like the generation above us still wants it to be that way? Like,
100%. Don't you think so?
Yeah. That's the hard thing. Like
that they want it to be on they're like.
Even like those who are attending the church, they want their pastor.
God is perfect and holy and should be set apart.
Yeah.
However, I don't think the church is perfect.
Yeah, like I think I miss out. I mean, I'm almost 30, 29. I'm gonna hold on to that. I'm in my 20s still.
Yeah. You're a youngster. Okay,
I'm a youngin'. But like, I miss out on opportunities to minister to older generations sometimes because they see my vlogs and they're like, you are so personal and you're human.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to follow a human. I want somebody who's better than
me. Yeah.
And I hate that. It's like there's only one person that's better than you. His name is Jesus. Like he's the hero.
Right.
But yeah, I worry about that all the time. I'm like, I think I'm for one generation, I'm hurting myself.
Yeah.
Like I just made a video yesterday about my sabbatical, and the thumbnail said "Pastor grieves and leaves." Like that's pretty raw and honest.
Yeah.
It's like millennials are like, "Oh, this is great. I'm so encouraged."
Right.
But like even
the others,
Gen X and above are kind of like,
aren't they like disheartened?
Right.
Like very discouraged in the other way. It's so funny how like if I tell you I mean I've had this happen so many times. Like I'll tell people I have panic attacks. I have panic disorder. But when I tell someone older than me that, they go, "Oh, wow."
Right?
Yeah. Or like, "Yeah, have you prayed?" Or like, "Are you like, anxiety is just something." And I'm like, "No, like I have a disorder. Like it's fine.
Right.
Like I'm fine. I'm not gonna have a panic attack on you right now." But but it's a real thing that people deal with, and it's fine. But like a lot of people are just automatically like.
And we can glorify it too much sometimes. Like sometimes when I make videos, I'm like, I also want to show you when I'm winning. I want to show you when life is good.
Right.
But then when life is bad.
The majority of life.
Yeah, like when I check Twitter, I'm like,
yeah.
Sometimes it is the biggest victim wins. Like we go on Twitter to say how terrible our life is, and we just clap for each other.
Right.
Sometimes I get that, I'm all for it. But other days I'm like, you can have a good day.
Yeah.
You can be happy.
Right.
So there's a balance. I understand how the older generation says that.
Highlight reel all the time.
Right.
Because when it's just the highlight reel, we're creating so much comparison.
Yes.
for people. We don't want that. Like, we don't want people to be like, oh, perfect Christians. I want that perfect Christian life.
Right.
Like, because it's not perfect, and you definitely never said it was going to be, you know. And so I don't want to, like, it's like false advertising in a way. Like, if you come to Christ, all of a sudden, all your problems are going away. So I think if we can create more, like, truthful content.
Yeah. And that's why I think stories, I mean, you know, telling stories, that's the best way to do it. Like, you know, we talk about, I think it was Aristotle who says, like, the 3 foundations are truth, goodness, and beauty. Mm-hmm. And I think the church has cornered the market on truth for a long time.
Yeah.
So let's just make YouTube videos about the truth.
Right.
But I think when we tell stories, we tap into goodness and beauty.
Right.
Tim Keller talks about how our generation doesn't want to just know that Jesus is right. Mm-hmm. They want to know that Jesus is better. Mm-hmm. Right? Like that it's actually a genuinely transformative way to live, you know? And so I think it's important for us to tell the story of just the ups and downs of life and how good Jesus is as our shepherd through the midst of it. Like, that's goodness, that's beauty.
Right.
Not just an apologetic slam dunk on people.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Which we need. I mean, I don't know about the slam dunk part, but we need truth.
Yeah, right.
But we need goodness and beauty.
Yeah, it's a really, like, we don't need Jonathan Edwards' hands as what is it? Sinners in the hands of an angry God. Like, that wouldn't work today, you know, the way it did back then.
Right. Preaching would be a lot easier if it did.
Oh, man, yeah, like, we just preach hell and fire, like, that'd be great. Like, I mean, I'd be into that. I don't know, it's funny, I love that section of English. I don't know, in high school English, did you ever study that?
Everybody was like, Trey, pastor's kid, you tell me what this means.
What this means. Oh, every single
it was
time.
So fun. I loved it.
I really enjoyed that part of English class. It was very interesting to me. But at the same time, because I was like, wow, like, this really, like, changed the nation. But at the same time, it was just, I don't know, it's an interesting part of history. But yeah. Well, what about you? What's some content that we should be creating? You tell us.
Oh man, you're not supposed to flip it back.
You're welcome.
No, I just think, and I praise God for it. Like, the conversations around live stream, and that should be good, you know. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, my whole thing is creative storytelling. Mm-hmm. I think the closest thing the church at large gets to it is testimonial videos. Yeah. And so praise God for those, but they. We do it in a way where it's just their whole stories in one video and it's done. Mm-hmm. And it's always super emotional. Mm-hmm. But I think there's ways to keep telling the story, to keep coming back, to keep showing the highs and lows of life. So it's a hard ask, but I really do think that there's power in it.
Yeah.
So,
and there's so many good stories.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has a story.
Everybody
does. Where God has brought them through, what He's brought them.
I mean, our Bible would make a lot more sense to us if we understood it as a story. There's creation, fall, redemption, restoration, understanding where we're at in that story. Right. But we treat it as like a cookbook or just these recipes or, you know, and so I think when we understand it's a story of grace, God's provision and how we're a part of that story too, you know, it's really powerful.
Okay, well, I feel like that's pretty good for today. Okay, so Trey, if people want to find you on the internet, how do they do it?
Just look up Trey Van Camp on YouTube. It's Trey Van space camp, like you're camping in a van. So V-A-N-C.
Got it. Van Camp.
Trey Van Camp.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for hanging out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Church Communications Podcast with Katie Allred and Kenny Jahng. If you liked our show today and want to learn more, you can join our Facebook group with over 25,000 church leaders. Simply search for Church Communications on Facebook. And if you liked today's episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review. It's the most impactful way you can help us reach more church leaders and equip them to become better communicators for the church. And finally, don't forget to check out our website at churchcommunications.com. Thanks for listening.